Hey guys, we're back. We're talking about celibacy today. The reasons why we would be celibate, the reasons why we think certain parts of certain phases of our lives would be healthier with celibacy. And we touched on different religions so far and what their belief system is regarding that. What else?
Well, we talked about millennials a little bit, and we were talking about that because, I did some readings, and it said that the millennials are too busy. I'm reading the text right now, too cautious and incapable of forming connections in the age of the screen. We talked about the screen.
I just don't think that's true.
Is that the sex on TV things you call up and can you do doggy whatever?
Those are not the millennials doing that, I don't think. Well, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's have this conversation. Yeah. So I don't think it's true that millennials are incapable. What did it say? Incapable of having...
Right here.
Let me read this again. Millennials are too busy, too cautious, or incapable of forming connections in the age of the screens. I don't think that's true. I think they are fully capable of forming connections. I think there are a lot of people out there right now that don't want connections, and I think it's harder to find online, certainly.
Millennials certainly get a bad rap.
They do. People don't understand them at all.
Yeah.
Justin's nodding his head.
We have a millennial in this room. And
we have two millennials in this room. I am now considered one. No.
Oh, you're millennial.
I'm the
You're the first year.
I'm the first wave of the millennial generation. We talked about this last time. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to reiterate it because it's really important because they just came out with it last year. From 1982 to 2004
That's right,
are the millennials.
Yeah.
Before that, it was Generation X. After 2004, it's something else. I don't even know the name of it yet. I don't even know if they've come up with the name of it yet. Millennials, when we talk about millennials from here on out for the rest of time, it's 1982 to 2004. There are two waves.
That seems like a long period.
Generation X,
22
started
years.
in 1960 something.
No, that's 22 years of millennials.
Well, how long was Generation X? 1960 what?
Same thing, 20-something.
Right? Through 1981.
So the next one, 2004 for 20 years, will be 2024.
Exactly. We're in the next generation right now.
What is happening now with that?
Okay, so there are two waves of the millennials from what I see, from what I can understand, because I'm at the first wave of it.
Yeah.
I was 1982. I'm born 1982. So my wave of the millennials is slightly different to the second wave that came in, which I believe was 10 years later. If you look at how they've combined generations, they do it in about 22 year periods, right? First wave is that first 10 years, the first decade. Second wave is that second decade. If you even look at your own generation, the baby boomers, for instance, anybody that was born 10 years or 7 years after you or before you are completely different people.
Right.
Or let's just stay within your generation, the baby boomers. People that were born in the 50s versus people that were born in the 60s, two totally different people, but they're part of the same generation. See what I'm saying?
Right.
It depends on the climate you're brought up around, but there's a link between each decade within that generation. Other generations don't have. Generational therapy is really great. It really helps you identify yourself on environmental levels, which help you intrinsically relate to yourself by your environment, not just what's going on in your crazy, messed up head. You have like reasons for why you're crazy and messed up. Right. You have reasons that you can not blame, but you can identify on a spectrum and go, oh, my generation was brought up in a climate where we graduated from college and there were no jobs available to us with degrees. And now there are people working at Trader Joe's with master's degrees. That is unbelievable, right? Now, this new generation here that's coming up now, that they're not even named yet, I don't think, now they're hearing, and it's really picking up the bandwagon of it, that trade schools are more beneficial for the future because the school systems, the college, the four-year college and everything, it's just crumbling. The whole institution is crumbling because there are not enough jobs to provide these degreed graduates.
You spend maybe $100,000 on college and then you have no work.
Right.
So you see the guys that did some kind of
internship?
No, what's it called? A trade school.
Right.
And they learn how to be an electrician.
Totally. You can make a fortune.
They're making money for the first day because you got to remember that the 4 years you're in college, you acquired a bunch of debt, and it's going to be a long time before you catch that money back.
Right.
So if you start out in some kind of electrician school or trade school, 18 months you're done or whatever it takes, and then you're making money from the very first day.
Now, that's probably a good idea no matter what generation we're talking about, because we always need an electrician. We always need a plumber. We always need an iron welder. We always need somebody that can do these things, right? Construction. But overall, in today's world and the generations that are living in it, like ready to go out into the job force, the work environment is so inflated. There are no positions available. And the ones that are locked down, because people are retiring later.
Right.
So they can't retire as early as everything's screwed up. Everything changed.
We should fix something. We try to just better fix one thing
Well,
a week.
that's what we're doing.
Right.
I mean, this is why I'm here. I'm smiling now. You're smiling at me. It's called the new wave, guys.
The new wave.
The new wave needed the old stuff that wasn't working anymore to decompose. It needed to go down.
Right.
And it's going down.
So now
now there's going to be fresh space to grow something new.
Now when people go to college, you have to be a dual major. people talk, I'm a dual major. I'm philosophy and plumbing.
Right.
So you learn two jobs. You learn how to be a tradesperson at the same time as you're enjoying philosophy or psychology.
It's right and left brain. I was theater and psychology.
Yeah, I can see that.
I was a double major. Now look, back to millennials and celibacy here, because I don't agree with what this article said about them. They are totally capable of forming connections because we don't understand that. Not we, because older people writing maybe even this article didn't understand the real millennial. The two waves we're talking about, just to be specific, is my wave, which probably is like the first 10 years, so 1982 to 1992, and then 1992 to 2004. They're kind of different, but here's how we're similar. We care a lot. We're very conscious. We've seen the world go to crap. We've watched it around us. We were the 9/11ers.
Right.
That was my freshman year of college, 9/11. For a lot of these millennials, that was their either freshman year of high school or that was their 6th grade year of elementary school. These are pivotal years, okay? This is the environment we were becoming aware of growing up. So we were aware that the world was going nuts. There's been war in almost every generation anyway, but this is a very unsettling time where...
recently.
Well, yeah.
In the last 82 days.
And so what it does is it makes the younger person look more introspectively without them even realizing it. The word introspection doesn't even come into their vocabulary when they're young, but they do. They look inside themselves. And because of that, they're more aware, more environmentally conscious. They care about people. They don't care what bathroom you go into. They want equality. Red and blue equal purple. They're more about purple than sides, and they don't operate out of anger through diversity. They're not angry about diversity. They're angry about lack of equality. In other words, what gets their goat up is not that you're different to them. They love that. They thrive on diversity.
Yeah.
But what gets their goat up is when anybody tries to restrict another human being from living their authentic selves. And they are tired of it, and they don't want it.
You think celibacy is a form of self-abuse?
It can be. Why? Why would you think so?
No, I don't think it's. I'm just asking. I was just wondering what you think. I think that it's very hard to be celibate.
I think it depends on the phase of your life. So when we're talking about these millennials that might be celibate, their reasons might be different to that 50-year-old man, and he's widowed, and he doesn't want to just go and have lots of dates with random women and have sex. He wants to stay celibate, because either he misses his partner and knows that there was something sacred there, or he has evolved to another level of his life in himself and realizes he doesn't need to just go out and gain external validation. There are so many reasons why we have sex.
Yeah, I had a
besides procreation.
I had a patient last week, and it came in. I did a very basic sexual history because it's part of the history and physical. And I said, "Well, what's your sex life like?" He says, "Well, I haven't had sex since November 3rd of 2 years ago."
And why?
That was a good question. I asked her why. She says, "Well, I got a big fight with my boyfriend, and I brought somebody else home. He came back and saw the other guy."
Oh, she's traumatized.
Yeah, so she says, "Yeah, so
that could not have been a fun night."
I love my job, but I hate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
That is my job.
Yeah.
My job's hearing it when you refer them to me.
I felt bad for her. Really felt bad for her, but sometimes people remember things, and she's been celibate since then because of the pain.
Right. So that's trauma related. Now, you have to understand too that celibacy also can be about trauma. It can be about somebody having gotten raped, and they had such a traumatic sexual experience that that traumatic sexual experience really not just gave a bad taste in their mouth about sex, but gates went into lockdown. It was like, nobody's getting back in here.
Right, in the cave.
Well, yeah, the cave. But then they made a moat around it.
That's right.
You know, and it's terrible.
Barbed wire.
I'm not trivializing rape. I think it's probably one of the worst things that can ever happen to somebody, that feeling of violation. But you have to understand then that trauma associated with that violation is what creates the moat. And they would rather just be safe on their own island for the rest of their lives than invite any potential intruder upon that land again. And you can understand why. But for the person to heal, that's where my care comes in. Like, that's where my concern comes in. It's not about whether or not you're having sex. It's about whether or not you are restricting yourself in your life due to that trauma.
Right.
Let's heal the trauma. Let's drain the moat, because you don't need this in your life anymore. You've gained self-assurance back. You've gained self-worth back. Things that were taken away from you if you were raped. That kind of violation or that kind of trauma. Let's go through a process of getting you back to feeling whole in yourself so you can take the barbed wire down and live your life without it around you. That's where my concern is. It's not about let's take the barbed wire down so you can have sex, so that you can meet people. It's about connecting with yourself. And you cannot truly connect with yourself from a free, liberated, open, loving place and be that entity in the world you want to be with barbed wire around you from a past trauma.
That's right.
So that I can understand if there's celibacy occurring during a traumatic time where they haven't yet fully healed.
Because I think
hopefully they're in a good work.
I think sex is usually when you're happy. You don't have sex when you're upset.
That is not true at all.
I'm talking what I think.
Oh, okay.
I think that most people when they have sex, they're happy. They're good. They're having sex for happy reason, and no alcohol, no drugs involved. Just they're happy. And as opposed to the other people, when they're unhappy, they don't have sex.
Keep going with that thought. I'm curious as to why you think that.
I think that most people look at having sex as a happy time.
Right. Okay. And then why would you not do it if you were angry? Or
if you're angry, then you're not going to be happy.
Oh, I see.
So you have to feel good, and that's why some people have sex after having cocktails.
So can I ask a question to delineate here? Is what you're saying that people who are depressed, maybe who are sad, are they don't want a lot of sex, versus somebody who's angry?
I think angry would cut it down, and a heavy depression, not light depression, because a lot of people have that.
Right, heavy depression, you can't brush your teeth.
Right.
It's a big deal for you to take that shower. You certainly aren't going to go romping through the fields of your bed with somebody. Like, yeehaw. You can barely lift your head up off the pillow.
Okay, cowgirl.
Barely lift your head up off the pillow.
Yeah.
Anger is actually a really very similar connection to sexual energy.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of anger. I mean, there's the angry because somebody pulled in front of you in a parking lot. But there's anger because something that your spouse did. That's been terrible.
Rage. That's when it turns into rage. One of my old professors called rage rusty, dusty, old anger. It's like anger that you've put under a carpet in a back room somewhere in the dark, just not to look at it. And so if you don't see it, it doesn't exist. And then one day, like, the slightest breeze comes along and the whole thing opens up and it's this big mess that you have to clean. Rage is so much harder to deal with than what initially made you angry. But we don't like to feel bad. And we're taught from an early age in kindergarten onwards, happy face, turn that turn that frown upside down. You're not sad. Don't cry.
Don't be sad.
We're taught not to be sad. We're taught it's a bad thing. And we're taught not to express our emotions that are not positive. So, like, if we're angry, a lot of generations came from that place of be seen and not heard, right? So you had to stifle all of your emotions. This is the earlier generations now. I don't know if you were raised that way or not.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so the baby boomers were mainly raised this way, and then their parents were raised this way. The earlier back you go, the more you see stifled generations of emotionally stifled people, because they were taught not to express how they feel. Okay, and obviously there are some of us in the newer generations too that had parents like that made us feel that way. And now you're in a phase in your life as an adult where you're trying to express yourself. So anger is not bad. Feeling is not bad, right? But what we do with it can be very detrimental. And it's usually through the suppression of these natural feelings that come up in us that do not get expressed organically and correctly,
Right.
that it turns into rage, and then you get a lot of violence. You get a lot of aggression, mostly negative outcomes. And that would prevent
maybe that's the reason
a lot of positive things happening.
Maybe that's the reason some people become celibate, because they've had pain. And they say, I'm just not going to go to that part of my world and see what happens.
Physical pain or emotional pain?
Emotional pain.
Right.
I'm not talking about, medical pain from cancer surgeries or something like that.
Heartbreak, you mean?
Yeah, anger, heartbreak, both.
Yeah, so that goes under the trauma thing.
I've been mistreated.
Yes, that goes under the trauma
I've been
umbrella.
the best person I could be, and then I still get mistreated.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a metaphor that I use about, I use it as like a garden, right? So you've tried to make this thing grow. You plant your seeds of intention with this person, and it, like, no matter what you do, you've watered it, you've sang to it, you've fed it, the sun has shone on it, you've prayed to the sun gods for it, you've put it in this beautiful little environment where nothing can get to it in a negative way, and it did not thrive. And you have this choice that you get to at one point while you're so tirelessly on the ground really trying to get this thing to grow, and it just won't blossom. Right. You have to stop and think to yourself, am I a bad farmer? Like, do I not have a green thumb? Or did this thing just not want to grow? Maybe it doesn't want to grow here. Maybe it doesn't want to grow in this space. Maybe it doesn't want to grow right now. But you know what? I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go because I've realized I've done everything I can do. We usually know when we do our best. So if you know that you've done everything you can do for this thing and it just didn't grow, this person just did not want to thrive with you, at some point you've got to stop blaming yourself and think there's something else you can do. And you have to stand up, dust yourself off, and say, I love you, but I'm going to let you go because you just didn't grow. And I need this space in myself to cultivate new things that I want to grow in a positive way to have my garden flourish in my life. Celibacy may be one of those periods of time where we reflect and come internal and don't let anything touch us for a while we rediscover our self-worth. So celibacy in a way can be very healthy. Are we going to break? Is that what? Okay, so let's go to break thinking about like how that can generate like a healthy place in us.
Okay.
And we'll talk when we get back about other reasons why celibacy is positive and healthy for us, and also sometimes can be very hindering. And I'll give you an exercise how to pull that sexual energy up and let it flow.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, so we'll be back after break.
Bye-bye.
Hey, okay, we're back. The doc had a question for me just now in general.
I did.
All right, let's hear it.
Is celibacy good or bad?
Okay.
That's simple.
Let's get to it.
Yes, no. Yes,
right,
no's.
Let's get to it. We've gone through the reasons why some people would do it, why it would be healthy at certain phases of our lives, why it's healthier, if you want to prevent STDs or future heartbreak because you're still suffering from through the trauma of the previous one. You're going through the healing process, right? We've talked about that stuff. We talked about religious beliefs. So it can be healthy for you and good for you if you truly believe that it's right for you spiritually. These are things that, it's very subjective. Good and bad is a very subjective term in general. It's what's good for you, what's not good for you.
Right.
So, and that changes through our lives, depending on the phase of life we're in and what's happened to us. What's good for you right now may not have been good for you 20 years ago.
Right.
And likewise, what's bad for you now may not have been bad for you 20 years ago. So we have to shift with our own evolution. We have to come inside and be aware of what we need at every given moment during our stages of growth. And that takes self-awareness. Enter my work here with the river of the breath. Now, if you're having a celibate experience in your life, if you're deciding whether or not you want to go celibate for a little while, based on all of the factors we can't even talk about here because it would just take forever. There are so many factors to question in yourself about, is this a good time for me to be celibate? Should I be celibate or not? If you want to just take your basic human sexual energy that occurs on a daily basis inside of you, you see that guy or girl that attracts you. It's a physiological, biological response, not just emotional. Okay? That's what gets us screwed up usually. And that's why the Dalai Lama doesn't date. The article I pulled in today was why the Dalai Lama doesn't date. He talked about how emotional relationships cannot be, we cannot delineate emotions from sex, male or female. Oftentimes in culture, in society, and pop culture, we usually talk about how men are less emotionally attached to sex than women are. I don't know if that's true anymore. I don't know if it was ever true. But sex is something very difficult to detach from emotions. You might be getting into that person a little bit more. You might be the kind of person in your life that attaches to the sensations and the connection. Even if it's not forever, you just feel that and you love it and you want more of it. And the other person's like, oh my God, you're clingy, go away. Or, hey, I just wanted a one-night stand. And it's going to make you feel bad about yourself. It tugs at your self-worth root. So overall, what we want to do is come inside ourselves and be aware of what we need, not trying to get that external validation. If you're a touchy-feely, tactile person, you want connection, start with yourself. Now, a lot of celibacy, you said, deters people from even masturbating. And that is actually part of a tantric practice where you don't masturbate for certain periods of time. You allow the sexual energy to course through you. So now, the river of the breath. If you come inside right now, close your eyes. You were really good at this last week.
I'm good. I'm getting good with my eyes closed.
Good. Okay, close your eyes. We're going to do this in the last 2 minutes of the show. So
okay, my eyes are closed.
I want you to just find your breath. And whoever's listening, unless you're driving, pull over, close your eyes. Find your breath. And I don't want you to do anything about it when you find it. Just watch it come up and down. And I want you to begin to imagine it's like a river inside of you, flowing, coming up and going down in its own natural rhythm. The breath's happening whether you do anything about it or not. So don't do anything about it. You're watching as an observer inside your body right now. Watch this river. Bring it up around the heart and down around the belly. As you inhale, it comes up around the heart. And exhale and watch with your mind's eye as it comes down the bottom of your belly and back up again as you inhale. It's making a figure 8 that runs through the center of your stomach area, your core. The next time you exhale, I want you to lay at the bottom of that figure 8 in what is your lagoon. I want you to find yourself in a lagoon in your stomach area. The river continues to flow up around the heart and down underneath you in the bottom of the belly, but you are laying in this lagoon, floating and sunbathing. It's calm and beautiful. This is the base of the practice. Open your eyes. Below that lagoon is that cave where your sexual energy is.
Okay.
So on days where you are feeling heightened sexual energy, frustrated sexual energy, energy that needs to be shifted, moved, take your breath from that river of breath we just did. And inside your body, push it down to your cave and pull the sexual energy up into the waters of the river of your breath. And you can move it through the river of your breath to different parts of your body. It transmutes. It dissipates. It heightens a creative process. It gives you more energy depending on where you put it. So something to chew on, marinate in.
We're going to think about that.
Until next time. All right. Thanks so much. You want to sign off?
Yeah, this is Dr. Gregory Jenkins with psychotherapist intern Alicia Dukov, and we're going to be back next week at the same time. Thank you.
Thanks.